Welcome to Tales of the Resistance, a podcast that shares stories of defiance and rebellion as little glimmers of hope in these trying times. I'm Amber Hunt, and before I begin, I just want to note that this is somehow episode number 23 of this weekly For Now show. We're hoping it lasts only as long as absolutely necessary, and yet we're more than half a year into it. Yikes. But on to the news. Donald Trump spent 5 days in Scotland last week in a trip that was billed as personal, but of course really wasn't. He was there to open a new golf course at his Trump International Resort while also holding behind-the-scenes meetings with European leaders to discuss trade, Gaza, and Ukraine. His arrival to the country was heralded by a headline in The National that read, "Convicted U.S. felon to arrive in Scotland." Thousands of Scots took to the streets to say, in no uncertain terms,
Trump is not welcome.
Protesters carried signs reading, "Trump no es bienvenido" and "Make America Think Again." My favorite sign was the poop emoji with Trump hair and the words, "What is that awful smell?" As one protester told CNN,
I think he's just the worst thing that has happened to your country and to the world, and a threat to all of us.
There were bagpipes, satire, and even a desk draped with an American flag labeled "Sorry." The mood was defiant and the message crystal clear. Scotland's not buying what Trump is selling. Security was intense with 6,000 officers, snipers, road closures, even an armored golf buggy nicknamed Golf Force One. Despite the lockdown, there were still arrests, including a young man near Prestwick Airport. The protests stayed largely peaceful, but their presence was impossible to ignore. Adding to the spectacle, viral footage appeared to show Trump's caddy accidentally improving his lie on the course, reigniting the old commander-in-cheat jokes online. Scottish First Minister John Swinney found himself navigating backlash. He had backed the protests, yet days later sat across from Trump at an official dinner, drawing fire from both his base and local press for political dissonance. The substance of Trump's visit did little to quiet Scottish concerns. After he left, Scotland's largest papers ran blistering commentary, with Newsweek noting that their coverage painted Trump as a menace whose visit symbolized everything they're resisting. A Vermont school superintendent is speaking out after enduring a harrowing detention by Customs and Border Protection at Houston's George Bush Intercontinental Airport. Wilmer Chavarria, a naturalized U.S. citizen since 2018, heads the Winooski School District in Vermont. The incident occurred after returning from a family trip to Nicaragua. Though traveling on a valid U.S. passport with global entry, he was abruptly pulled from the priority lane, escorted into a holding area, and split from his husband for nearly 5 hours, all without explanation. Chavarria describes the ordeal as surreal and psychological terror. At least 5 agents in plainclothes interrogated him in windowless rooms void of clocks, repeatedly asserting, "You have no rights," and "Your constitutional rights don't matter at a port of entry." Wilmer told a reporter,
"Feel like you've been abducted by a gang of aggressive, violent people who are trying to manipulate you and who are lying to you. And while you're being abducted, you know that these people are capable of doing anything to you because they don't care."
Agents demanded passwords to both his personal devices and his district-issued laptop containing private student records. Chavarria eventually consented to sharing his personal files, but refused to grant access to district data, citing federal privacy laws and Winooski's sanctuary district policy. He was threatened with job loss, referral to the FBI, extended detention, and a tarnished record if he didn't comply, but he stood strong. After hours, Chavarria was finally released and informed that his global entry membership was revoked. A plainclothes officer shook his hand and praised him for protecting student information, a gesture Chavarria did not appreciate. He called it dehumanizing. Since the incident, Chavarria has spoken publicly about his fear and disillusionment, saying he doesn't feel safe here, and even worse, He doesn't feel like he can make his immigrant students feel safe either. He said his detainment was traumatizing for his whole family.
The terror that goes through a spouse's mind in not knowing while your spouse is detained for 4 to 5 hours is not something I wish on anybody.
But his ordeal has caused some important people to step forward on his behalf. Officials in Vermont, including the school board and Secretary of State, have condemned the treatment as deeply disturbing and unjust, calling for accountability and reform. As the Jeffrey Epstein scandal gets chewed up by politics, with conspiracy theories swirling and officials carefully parsing what they'll release, one survivor is determined not to let the nonsense drown out her voice. Danielle Bensky, who says Epstein exploited her when she was just 17, is speaking out publicly to reclaim her narrative and demand the truth. She told ABC News, quote, "It's time for the truth to finally be told," end quote. Bensky's push comes at a time when the Justice Department insists there is no client list, while releasing documents so heavily redacted that survivors say they obscure the very accountability they've spent decades fighting for. Political actors have twisted the case into fodder, amplifying speculation while doing little to expose the networks of power that protected Epstein. Amid that noise, Bensky's decision to go public is its own act of defiance by fighting to make sure survivors remain the focus. Like other women who've stepped forward, she's rejecting half-truths and demanding full transparency about who enabled Epstein and why so many powerful people looked away. It should be noted that Bensky's abuse started after she asked Epstein for help because her mother had brain cancer.
I took the scans of my mom's brain tumor to him, and he brought me to the office, sat me down, and said, "Okay, so what will you do for this?" And my heart sank, and I asked him what he meant, and he's like, "You have 2 choices, basically. You can recruit and bring me more girls, or you're going to have to do something for this." And that's when the sexual abuse started.
So yeah, these are real people dealing with real, long-lasting trauma. It's not just some political game to them. Bensky's decision to keep talking highlights that this has never been about just one man. It's about a system that allowed him to operate with impunity. And while politicians posture, survivors like Bensky are refusing to let the truth be buried. In Encinitas, California, a routine Home Depot parking lot became the scene of a powerful act of resistance when neighbors stepped in to challenge a sudden immigration and customs enforcement operation. Video captured the moment agents detained a man near the store's entrance. Within minutes, bystanders gathered with their phones out.
Get out of our city!
Go find a job that you can feel good about.
No kidding. If you're proud of your job, take your mask off. Seriously.
Their presence was loud enough that the agents paused, visibly uncomfortable under the watchful eyes of a growing crowd. Witnesses say the officers offered no explanation and quickly left the area after securing the man in their vehicle. ICE later declined to provide details, citing ongoing operations. The man's identity and legal status remain unclear, but what stood out to those who watched was the reaction of their community. Encinitas residents didn't plan a protest that day. They simply refused to stay silent. Their shouts, questions, and cameras turned what could have been an invisible detention into a public event, one that ICE couldn't control or quietly sweep away. The videos that went viral show one woman in black leggings trying to get the detained man to give her a phone number for her to call. She even demands to see an arrest warrant from the arresting agents, who tell her because she isn't related to the man, it doesn't concern her. She disagreed.
Don't fucking push me. You're taking him before I can take a phone number from him?
You need to stop. Right?
You need to stop kidnapping people off the fucking street. 100%. You just dragged him away when I'm trying to call his family for him.
You're making an arrest. You need to stay
Show
back
me
from
your
my
arrest
way.
warrant then. Show me your arrest warrant.
I don't need to show you anything.
Yeah, because you're a fucking liar.
You're not an interested party. You have no right to see that.
Stop! You guys are kidnapping people off the fucking street!
They told her she was being obstructive. I say she was being a badass. In an era where federal power often feels untouchable, the courage of a few everyday people sent a message. People are watching and speaking up, and sometimes that's enough to change the tone of an entire encounter. Finally, this week, another jab at Elon Musk, who unveiled his first ever Tesla diner in Hollywood last week. It didn't go so well.
Tesla board, shame on you. You support the fascist crew. You support the fascist crew.
Protesters quickly mobilized outside the sleek, retro-futuristic diner, inflating Nazi-saluting Elon balloons and chanting messages like, "Boycott Tesla" and "Fuck Nazi billionaires." Organized by the Tesla Takedown Movement, a grassroots, decentralized coalition of anti-authoritarian activists, the crowd made it clear. This diner isn't just a restaurant, it's a symbol of unchecked corporate influence and political overreach. Joel Lava, one of the group's organizers, says protests echo opposition not only to Musk's recent role in the Trump-era Doge government, but also to his anti-trans rhetoric, misinformation campaigns, and climate hypocrisy. Now, that's not to say the opening was a flop. Crowds of fans lined up for themed meals and Cybertruck-shaped boxes and robot servers, and a few self-declared fascists confronted demonstrators, but it's the protests that made the news. That, and complaints from nearby residents who have reported insane gridlock and noise all night long from the restaurant. Some say living next to what they hoped would be a charging haven has become, quote, absolute hell, unquote. Reminder just for fun, Tesla sales for the second quarter of 2025 dropped about 13% from last year, marking the automaker's lowest delivery volume since 2022. The pain is especially sharp in Europe, where deliveries plunged nearly a third. Stock prices have taken a beating too, down more than 20% this year. Elon Musk is betting on robo-taxis and a cheaper Model Y to turn things around, but for now, Tesla is struggling to prove it can keep its footing. And we love that for them. This has been Tales of the Resistance, a podcast from Grab Bag Collab. It's edited by Amanda Rossman and reported by me, Amber Hunt. If you like what you hear and you want to support us, please go to patreon.com/grabbagcollab.